The flickering glow of the old television was the only thing cutting through the oppressive darkness of the living room. I was 17, babysitting for the Henderson family in their sprawling, two-story house at the end of a long tree-lined lane. It was my first time here, and the house had that unnerving silence that only old, large homes possess. A silence so deep, you start to hear things that aren't there. Or, so I thought. The Henderson kids, Lily and Tom, were little angels. After a marathon of cartoons and a story about a brave little dragon, they were sound asleep in their sleeping bags on the floor right beside me. Mr. Henderson had insisted. They get spooked easily, he'd said with a wink. Easier for you if they're downstairs. I'd smiled, grateful. The less I had to navigate the labyrinthine upstairs hallways, the better. It was just past 11 o'clock. A cheesy rom-com was playing, the kind you only watch when you're half asleep. I glanced down at Lily and Tom. Their chests rose and fell in a steady, peaceful rhythm. Everything was fine. I pulled my blanket tighter around my shoulders and tried to focus on the movie. That's when I heard it. A faint creak from directly above me. The floorboards. My heart did a little stutter step. It's just the house settling, I told myself. A common refrain for anyone trying to be brave in the dark. Old houses groan and sigh. It's their way of breathing. I took a deep breath, my eyes still glued to the TV, pretending I hadn't heard a thing. Then it came again. Not a creak this time, but a distinct, soft thud, followed by another, and another. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Someone was walking upstairs. My blood ran cold, my breath hitched in my throat. I muted the TV, and the silence that rushed in was deafening, amplifying the sound from above. Thump ... Thump ... Thump. It was moving from the far end of the hallway, right above the living room, heading towards the stairs. I froze, every muscle in my body screaming. My mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. A raccoon in the attic. A branch scraping against the roof. No. This wasn't a random noise. This was the sound of weight being placed on a floor. The sound of feet. I slowly, carefully, leaned over the arm of the sofa. The sleeping bags were still. Lily and Tom hadn't stirred. Their little faces were serene in the faint moonlight filtering through the window. They were right here, safe, beside me. So, who ... or what ... was upstairs? The Hendersons had been very clear. They were the only ones with keys. They were at a charity gala downtown, an hour's drive away. No one else was supposed to be here. No one. My gaze darted to the front door. The deadbolt was thrown, the chain latched. I'd checked it 3 times. The windows were all locked. My hand trembled as I reached for my phone on the coffee table. The footsteps stopped. The silence that followed was somehow worse than the noise itself. It felt heavy, expectant, like something was listening, waiting. I held my breath, straining my ears. Had I imagined it? Was my teenage mind, fueled by too much soda and late-night television, playing tricks on me? I was just about to exhale, to laugh at my own paranoia, when I heard a new sound. A soft, scraping noise. It came from the top of the staircase, just out of sight from where I was sitting. It sounded like fingernails dragging slowly, deliberately, down the wooden banister. Scrape. That was it. Logic was gone, replaced by pure, primal fear. This wasn't the house settling. This wasn't an animal. I grabbed my phone, my fingers fumbling with the screen. Judo primera. Cae, the Hendersons. What would I even say? Hi, I think there's a ghost in your house. The police. They'd think I was a prank caller. My eyes were locked on the dark space at the top of the stairs. The scraping stopped. My heart was a drum against my ribs. I had to do something. I couldn't just sit here. The kids. I had to protect the kids. Slowly, silently, I slid off the couch and onto the floor, trying not to make a sound. I crawled over to the sleeping bags. I needed to get them out of here. But how? Waking them would cause them to cry. And I had a terrifying, gut-wrenching feeling that making noise was the worst possible thing I could do right now. I stayed there, crouched between the two sleeping children, my phone clutched in my hand. My body was a knot of terror. Every shadow in the room seemed to twist and writhe. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked, each tick an eternity. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Then, a floorboard creaked again, not from upstairs this time. It came from the top step of the staircase, the first step down. My blood turned to ice. It was coming down. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for the Hendersons' car to pull into the driveway, praying for the sun to rise, praying for this to be a nightmare. I listened to every nerve ending on fire, for the next sound, the next step. But it never came. There was only silence, a deep, profound, and terrifying silence. I stayed there, crouched on the floor, for what felt like hours, not daring to move, not daring to breathe. My eyes burned from staring into the darkness at the top of the stairs. Finally, the blessed sight of headlights swept across the living room walls. The sound of a car door slamming was the most beautiful music I had ever heard. The Hendersons were home. When the front door opened, Mrs. Henderson found me on the floor, pale and shaking, with the kids still fast asleep beside me. I stammered, trying to explain the footsteps, the scraping sound. Mr. Henderson listened patiently, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he put a hand on my shoulder. "You must have been terrified," he said, his voice calm, too calm. "It's an old house. It makes all sorts of noises." But then Mrs. Henderson spoke, her voice a low whisper. "Don't patronize her, dear." She looked at me, her eyes filled with a strange mixture of pity and fear. "We're so sorry. We should have told you." She glanced up the stairs, tin back at me. "Our oldest son, Jakob, he would have been 10 this year. He used to love playing hide and seek. He'd always tiptoe around upstairs, trying not to be found." My heart stopped. "Used to," I whispered, already knowing the answer. Mr. Henderson sighed, his shoulders slumping. "There was an accident on those stairs. He fell." They didn't have to say anything else. I understood the footsteps, the quiet, deliberate steps of a child playing a game. The scraping sound, the sound of a small hand sliding down the banister. He wasn't trying to scare me. He was just playing, waiting to be found. I never babysat at the Henderson house again. Sometimes, late at night, when my own house creaks and groans, I think of that night. I think of the two sleeping children beside me, and the one who was still awake, playing a lonely game of hide and seek in the dark hallways upstairs. Thanks so much for listening to my story. If you have a spooky experience of your own, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there.